What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today I've got exciting news. You see, the other day I told you about a starter set, the Bumblebee versus Megatron starter set, and I told you that we knew what the characters were, but we didn't know exactly what they did. We had partial images of them, we knew what the characters were, I told you everything I could, but you could tell from the thumbnail, we didn't have complete scans of the characters. Well, now we do. So settle down and let's have a gander at them. And just as we start here, I should mention that these were revealed by, and I'm almost certainly going to say this wrong, but Pew, I want to say, who chucked one out over Twitter, and one on Reddit, and then the other one went off over at TFW. Those lovely folks who do the podcast you really should be listening to, though I believe it was still actually revealed by Pew. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for that, dude. You rock, sir. Now, we've already previously seen WIndblade. WIndblade is a 5-star character, and it's not terribly inspiring. Essentially, my conclusion on it, and I did had a look at that in the video, I'll pop a link in the description, that it was essentially Alpha Bravo, but a bit worse. But it was a plane, and Alpha Bravo is a helicopter, and we have no helicopter support at the moment. But now we can see Bumblebee, we can see Megatron, we can see Starscream, and we know what's going on. Now, one of the interesting things to begin with, I was wrong, ladies and gentlemen. And I point out when I'm right, so I think it's fairly important to point out when I'm wrong. I was convinced that they would total 25 stars, just like they did on the first starter set. Turns out no. Both the Autobots and Decepticons have a 5 and a 7-star, which adds up to 24. For the Autobot side, we got WIndblade, who is a 5-star character, and Bumblebee, who's a 7-star character. And for Decepticons, we see Starscream, who's a 5-star character, and Megatron, who's a 7-star character. Does this mean we're going to be getting a star card in there to bring the set as a whole up to 25 stars? It depends. If they want it to be played as a deck in and of itself, then yes, to make it up to 25 stars. If it's designed as a 2-player deck to help 2 players learn together, then no, because otherwise one player has a star card and the other one doesn't. Either way, I predicted that we would see 25 stars worth of characters, and we've actually got 24. So I thought I should point that out. So what do we see, ladies and gentlemen? Well, let's start off with Megatron, because Megatron makes me sad. I was desperate for Megatron to be a 5-star character. And the reason is extremely simple. The common Megatron in Wave 2, Arrogant Ruler, is a 10 cost. The common Megatron in Wave 1, Decepticon Leader, is a 10 cost, which means if we had a 5-cost Megatron, then we could have treble Megatron. But we don't, so we can't. So it's a 7 cost. What are the stats like? Not really quite as good as we might imagine, unfortunately. They're not stunning. Now, it's a 7 cost, which is 1 below the Wave 1 average. The health of 10 is below the average, 2 below. The defense of 1 or 2 is on the average or below. And the attack of 2 or 3 is below the average or half the average. I know it's a fairly cheap character, but for a 7-cost character, I would expect a little bit more. These stats are far from ideal. Now, it is a range character, which is quite nice because it means you get access to stuff like Armed Hovercraft, or indeed the card that came incredibly highly up on my top 10 actions of Wave 2. Now, I'm going to be honest, that video was going to go up today, but it's got delayed for this video, but I'm going to spoil the surprise just a little bit. Marksmanship is very high up on that list, and you can use both of them, and that's quite nice. And it is a tank, and my favourite thing about tanks at the moment is you can use superior plating without having to use tech research, because you can essentially cheat it on using Hunker Down, so you can get this amazing Tough 4 upgrade that you should usually have to play tech research to play, but instead you can just play it straight away with Hunker Down. This is all very, very good and very, very promising. But what do the skills do? Well, when you flick it into alt mode, you get Bold 1, flip one more battle card when attacking. And if you do what I just described, so you can kind of cheat superior plating on there, then you end up with tough 4 and bold 1. Yeah, it'd actually be better if this gave you tough 1, because then you could really take advantage. Defensive 2 and tough 5 would be great. As for the bold 1, it's fine, but you've got lower attack in alt mode than you do have in bot mode. And tanks are kind of made a bit more defensive, so I like bold 1. I'm not turning it down. That would be weird. But it's not exactly what we would primarily like. Of course, the counter-argument here is, hey, bold 1 gives you essentially just as good attack as bot mode, if not more, while having a higher defense. Maybe that's good. Depends how many orange icons you're playing. In bot mode, when you upgrade, you get +1 attack until end of turn. Now, this is really quite nice. You could always combine this with, one of the great cards we got in Wave 2 was Swindled. Swindled lets you draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards, and then play an upgrade. So, there's nothing to say this doesn't stack, so that will potentially give you 5 attack. That would be pretty gosh darn good. And 5 attack on a 7 cost, now we're talking, ladies and gentlemen. Now we are talking. It's not the greatest card ever, but if you take advantage of playing some upgrades, this could be kind of nice. Plus, there is a great little combo with the Megatron Arrogant Ruler here, because when you flip into alt mode, you may play an upgrade, and you could play it onto this, and then you'd have played 2 upgrades in a turn. Heck, you could even go something like Swindled, plus this, plus your upgrade for the turn, and you could actually get yourself up to +3 attack, or 6 attack. That's really nice. That could work beautifully. And then, of course, in bot mode, still obviously on the Megatron Arrogant Ruler here, you can discard an upgrade from your hand and draw 2 cards. That's quite nice. This is a character that really wants upgrades, so, play along. That is when you attack, incidentally. Flicking over to Starscream, we're not expecting much. It's a 5-star character. Now, to be fair, it's a 5-star plane, which can really help you out with some of your deck building. We've got stuff like, I like the Starscream from Wave 1, that does 1 damage counter for each other plane you've got. So the more low-cost planes we've actually got here, the easier this can be to do some big damage. So being a 5-cost plane alone is quite nice. We all like Acid Storm from Wave 2, but even Acid Storm is a 6-cost. So it's not like they're entirely comparable, although Acid Storm is quite a bit better. Now, in terms of the stats here, 0 defense or 1 is very low. 4 attack or 3 is actually pretty good. 4 attack on a 5-star character is really nice. But 7 health? It makes you super vulnerable to stuff like Pierce, or cheeky damage from even something like your Starscream I mentioned a moment ago. Not to mention that Alpha Bravo does 1 damage to a plane when it attacks. You do not have health to give away here. The stats are incredibly uninspiring. Especially 7 health, 0 defense. Although, like I say, 4 attack on a 5-star character is not bad. It's just proper glass cannon. You ain't lasting long. Now, you have tough 1, and I feel like this is a deliberate choice, because of course we just said how Megatron has bold 1, and we'd much rather have tough. Well, this has tough, and we'd rather have bold. But again, you could sit there as, 7 health bad, 0 defense bad, but at least it's got tough 1. We quite like the 4 attack, but that really is about the best we can say about Starscream. However, it is a very cheap plane, and you may well end up deck building going, oh man, I really need a 5-star plane, and we've got a 5-star plane. It's Starscream. And I should mention it's a melee character. We like melee characters, melee in either mode, and that gives you Power Sword, which gives you Bold 3, and Body Armor, which gives you Tough 3. So what you could do is play a little bit of a combination here, and, go Body Armor and actually give yourself Tough 4. And then just sit there and kind of actually have a little bit of bulk. Still makes you vulnerable to pierce and cheeky damage, but still. And then we end up with Bumblebee. Now, Bumblebee's a 7 cost, so we do expect a little bit more from Bumblebee here, because it's a little bit more expensive. Now, it is again a melee character, which gives all the props we just gave to Starscream. And then, of course, it is a car, which means you get all kinds of stuff like turbo boosters to untap and start your engines to flip and untap. So, you know, there's some bonuses for being cars. It is a 7 cost, though. And we've got some really good 6 cost stars, like, for instance, the other starter set Bumblebee. Personally, I'm more of a fan of Prowl, but we have a 6-star Bumblebee. This 7-star Bumblebee's got some stuff to live up to. And straight off the bat, we're not a huge fan, but because it's objectively worse. Like, stats-wise, it's objectively worse. They're both 9 health, and in alt mode, they've got the exact same 392 stats. But in bot mode, the previous Bumblebee has 1 more attack, 1 more defense, and is 1 star cheaper. Stats-wise, this is worse than the other Bumblebee. And they're both melee characters, regardless of what mode they're in. And they're both cars, but the other Bumblebee is also a leader. So, just to take stock for a moment, objectively worse stats, same designations, except it's not a leader. It's got bold 1 in bot mode. It's vanilla in alt mode. It's got bold 1 in bot mode, whereas the Wave 1 starter set Bumblebee has tough 1. So if you want to go bold rather than tough, this is good. But that's it. It is 1 star more expensive than the other starter set Bumblebee, and the only thing that isn't full-on proper job objectively worse is that you've got bold rather than tough. Is it worth paying the extra star to go bold? It might be. If you want to build on an attacking deck using stuff like Power Sword, lots of orange icons, it might be worth going for the bold 1 here. But generally speaking, if you're giving me a character which is more expensive with worse stats, that has the same designations except it's not a leader, and okay, that really just gives you Matrix of Leadership, that's the only real advantage, but it still gives you Matrix of Leadership, I'm going to need something, and I don't know if swapping tough for bold is good enough. These ain't supposed to be amazing characters, ladies and gentlemen, because frankly, it's a starter set. It is designed to help people learn to play the game. That is the goal of this. That is the point of this set. But you know what? Starscream's a 5-star plane. We've got some stuff we can use here. And let's face it, the starter set cards from last time saw a little bit of play. And we had 2 vanilla cards with no skills whatsoever in the previous starter set. And that's not happened here. So there we go. Those are the 3 new characters, but I would very much like to know what you think about them. So please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! But please do remember the rule, ladies and gentlemen. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk about games, like Transformers. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.